Welcome back everybody, I'm Follygon, and in this part here we are going to continue to work with the overall proportions of our face. But before we do that, we want to Z-remesh this and work on getting some topology that is easier to work with. So to do that, first of all I'm going to turn off perspective. It just makes things a little bit easier to see for me. I am going to hide everything, so by clicking that eye and clicking this again, it's the only visible thing, only visible subtool here. I can duplicate that, and then from there I can Z-remesh it. 5 is probably a pretty good poly count for what I'm going to want here. And 5, of course, means like around roughly 5,000 polygons, but it'll be closer to 10 just because it's mirrored. So that looks pretty good for what we're gonna need. Around here, around the corners of the mouth, Z-remesher and projection have problems, so we'll see how it does, but just real quick here, so we got this piece. I like to press my G key to turn on solo mode, or you can just click it down here if you don't have that set as a hotkey. And I'm gonna subdivide and come on down and where are you? Project. Click on project. Subdivide, project, and we'll do it one more time, even though we probably don't need to. And I didn't close holes on my mesh before doing this, which can sometimes result in some pretty big issues down the road, but it looks like we're probably okay. The corners of the lips didn't turn out too bad, and I think, I am happy with that result. So I step all the way down. It looks like we have some pretty workable polygons here, so we'll just delete that piece. And the reason I duplicate and project from the top one, or I guess from the bottom one to the top one, is that when you duplicate a piece like this, the top one is the one that keeps all of your undos. So I can oh no, I might have crashed it. So I got all my undos up there and I can scroll through them all just like that. Super helpful, but if you look at this bottom one here, no undos. So when you duplicate a piece, just keep in mind that your top subtool is the one that keeps all of your undos. So we've done about 900 actions on this piece. That's not really that many, but we'll do some more. So I'm subbing down to my lowest subdivision level here, and I'm going to just begin adjusting a lot of our bigger shapes. And you can look at some reference for this if you want. Right now, I haven't really adjusted too much in terms of the, I guess, skull up here. So we can maybe look at that. I kind of want it more boxy, at least for now, and we can change it if need be later. Another thing that can kind of help you see proportions and the shape of the head of the character that you're working on really well, kind of akin to adding in more and more parts. Adding in a neck will maybe kind of help solidify some of this. So we can duplicate here, and I only duplicate it just so I have something to insert my new mesh on. You can literally do whatever you want. And I pretty much like to use a sphere for anything, but you could also use a cylinder. Either one really will get the job done. And I'm going to make sure that, okay, double is turned on there. Okay, so from here we can just move. Could even turn back face masking on so that when I move, it stays more in its shape, or it doesn't move those top polygons. You can do it however you want though. And this is way too high of a dynamesh for what this thing's going to be. So like dynameshing at 55 will get the job done for what we're going to want. So trying to get the basic just neck shape in here. What's great about using multiple subtools like I'm doing here instead of just trying to build it out of the head, one, you're not disturbing the topology that you've worked so hard and the clean shapes that you've worked so hard to create here on your mesh, but also, well, if you want to make changes to each one individually, you can later down the road. It's kind of like working with layers in Photoshop is what I relate that to. So I like to have as many subtools as I can. In my opinion, the more subtools, the better. So like if I didn't have this as a separate tool here, like, it would be pretty hard to adjust this interaction, but like I wouldn't be able to, oh, I want to make this a lot skinnier or a lot fatter. Like, I couldn't do that if this was all, like, I couldn't do that easily, is what I'm saying, if this was all one part, one piece. So that's like a decent basic neck shape. We could even start to get in the sternocleidos or whatever, you know, they're called. Sternocleidomastoid. I know where lots of muscles are, but I don't know the names of lots of muscles. So like, I'll be like, yeah, the back ones, and they're like, you mean the trapezius? And I'm like, that's the one, that thing that goes from here to there. And they're like, yeah, dude, you know art things. So I try, but if you know where they are, giving them a name can kind of help solidify it in space. But if you don't know the name of every frickin' muscle, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, like I said, the neck can kind of help you get that into position. Again, switching materials can really help you to just see things in a new way for the first time. So turning perspective on can also be pretty helpful with that. And the shape of our head, our cranium, is looking pretty tiny up there, and our jaw looks like it's coming down pretty far as well. We kind of got this overall sloping, like sloping down shape, and I might want to adjust and kind of correct some of that. But in truth, the highest point of your skull is like somewhere around back behind the ear there, or just right around that area, so it's not too off from reality. But again, obviously this character is very far removed from reality with the style that we are aiming for, which I guess I would call kind of my own personal style that I've been somewhat developing here. So we'll just use a trim brush and try to adjust that a little bit. You could even use a pinch brush, holding Alt to kind of, you know, really define that. But one, I don't like the angle that was happening. I'd probably make that straighter, more towards the corner of the nose. But I don't, on female characters in particular, really like to emphasize these sharp, hard transitions. So for me, the key to kind of creating a female character is really just trying to get some soft shapes that you know, can still show and hold transitions well. So like here on the nose, this is a good example. Like just trying to, I'm gonna soften this out even more here, but as we go along. But just really trying to, you know, it still looks like the nose is transitioning there really well, but also at the same time, you know, it's a really soft transition, and you couldn't really like point it out as like where exactly the transition happens unless you're looking at it pretty closely or using a crappy red wax material to show you every little crease and edge turn on your material. Speaking of which, pretty much, if you're starting out, I would say pretty much never use this material. It does a very good job of like pointing out all the flaws in your mesh. So if you look down here, like there's some weird junk going on down here, and you know, I could smooth that out and adjust some of that, and you can see it on the lips even, and on the nose. And really, like, I'm not worried about that stuff too much. I'm more worried about bigger picture. But if you are at a point where you're having trouble seeing flaws in your mesh, and you want to know where you need to work on your character, or whatever you're doing, red wax material, just go ahead and click that on for like 2 minutes, and it will show you every single flaw that you could ever want to kind of change and work on. So like, I'm noticing more and more stuff. So it is very helpful for that kind of thing, but it is it's a pretty bad material for trying to present your work in. So I would recommend not using that one if you're, you know, trying to show off the thing that you made. It's a pretty common beginner mistake for people to use that material. Just because it's the default one, I again just recommend that you don't use it in general. So that's what I got to say on that. So the chin's looking pretty big. I don't like big chins on my ladies. I don't know about you guys, but so we'll just kind of knock it down a bit, see if we can start to adjust stuff. What's really nice right now is that I have all these lower subdivision levels. It makes it really nice for me to just step down and smooth stuff out and start affecting shapes that way. So I can also, you know, pull this out with my move brush to try to get a bit of a sharper chin. And that's pretty nice there, getting closer to probably where we will want this. And you know, in terms of like facial proportions for the character of D.Va, she has a pretty sharp chin, but her face is more round, and we're starting to get pretty tall here. So at this point, I'll probably, you know, now that I got the nose, mouth, ears, eyes, blah, 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 all in there, we can start kind of getting the facial proportions closer to her while still working on, you know, continuing to adjust some more stuff as we move around. And I guess we will do that in the next part here. So I will see you guys in the next video. All right, bye now.